I'm Kuba Winkowski and this is the Great British Chef's Signature Series. Wood fire oven, it's a living thing. I love a challenge, to be honest, because there's no on and off button. It's just exciting, and the flavors you get, they're incredible. I really like to cook with birds, with duck or chicken, because you can make 2 or 3 meals out of one bird, and I think it's only fair to an animal. Quite frankly, from those off bits, you get the most flavors and meals. Cooking in a wood fire oven, it's all about the theatre. The fire is in control, not me. I'm just trying to dance around it, to try to not cremate things. So this I'm cooking now, it's roasted duck. It's beautiful, dry-aged, critically duck from one of my favorite suppliers. What I love about this is I just love duck. I love the fattiness of it. I love all the flavor which comes out of it, and with connection with wood fire oven and smoke, because we're gonna be smoking it. I think it's a perfect combination. So the first thing, we're gonna prepare our duck. So I'm gonna remove the wings, trim them slightly as we don't need it, and we can use the meat for the sauce. I think people don't use duck enough. They're quite widely available. You can buy them in most of the supermarkets. I just think it's much more interesting than chicken, and it's as easy to cook. As well, duck. I like duck because it takes Asian flavors very well. It's a great family dish. So the wings are out. Then it's a wishbone. It's good to remove it. The wishbone is that sort of sits over here. It's quite hard to see in the duck, but what I want to do is go underneath it. So after removing the wishbone, I'm gonna score the breast. All I wanna do is score the fat. So I want a knife, sharp knife. You don't wanna expose the meat because that will make it dry after during cooking. So this is just to allow the salt to penetrate it better and fat to render. So that's our bread ready. So now we need to put it in the brine. So it's gonna be 5% brine, which is a water solution with salt. So for every liter of water, we're gonna add 50 grams of salt. So I've got 6 liters of water here, so it's 300 grams of salt in there. Mix it very well to completely dissolve. Now our duck goes in. Make sure you've got a big enough container so it's fully submerged. And we're gonna leave our duck in there for 24 hours. So this duck now has been 24 hours in the brine. I took it out, put it dry, and I put it back in the fridge for another 24 hours, up to 48 hours, so it's nice and dry again. As the next step is gonna be smoking. The vital thing is for this to be dry. If whatever you smoke is not dry, the smoke won't stick to it, and as well will create a sour flavor. All I need is a bit of string to create a little loop. I can appreciate that you might not have a smoker at home, but most of you will have a barbecue. You can get yourself this little smoke generator, and it will produce smoke up to 16 hours. So I need to create a loop. I'm gonna put on my stick, and I'm ready to go into a smoker. The duck just come out of the smoker. You can see the lovely yellowish tinge on it. Smells delicious. So now we need to finish the butchering of it. So I want to remove the legs and cut the backbone so you can create nice crown of duck. Keep that fat. Remember, the fat is very important, especially on the duck, because that will protect it when it's cooking. Cut this away. And that's what we call a crown, and that's ready for roasting. So the first part of the garnish we're gonna do, it's meat for our dumplings. So we're gonna use the legs for that. We're gonna cook it in sauerkraut. Sauerkraut, typical Polish ingredients, great for winter, full of lovely ingredients, vitamin C and all the goodness we need. As well, we got the dried steps over here, which have been picked by my mother-in-law, actually, back in Poland. Those dried steps I've soaked in the boiling water. Now I just chop them roughly. Then I've got onion, which I'm gonna just dice fairly fine, but nothing too accurate. So basically what we're doing is sauerkraut and wild mushroom stuffing with addition of the duck. So now I've got a tray. Sourness as well of it sort of helps to soften the meat, make it nice and tender. So I'm gonna use half of it and just lay on the bottom of the tray with some of those dried ceps and some onion, and that's the bed for our duck legs. Then we're gonna place our smoked duck legs on top with the rest of the mushrooms, onions and sauerkraut. That will protect it from the heat. Our mushroom juice, or the water we soaked in, don't waste it, it's full of flavour. And as well I've got some stock, just put it on just to keep it nice and moist. And that's ready to go in the oven. In the same time I'm gonna cook potatoes for our dumplings. Right, so the next part of the dish is making our potato dumpling dough. So the potatoes should be cooked now. So you got basically your jacket potatoes. So you're just gonna cut them in half, scoop out the flesh. So this is a traditional Polish dumpling, so it's just potato with some potato flour and a little bit of egg yolk to bind. We serve them savory, but as well sweet. Actually wrapping strawberry in that mix sounds crazy, but trust me, it works, it's delicious. So now we have to put this through potato ricer. The potato dumplings are popular in Poland, but as well in Austria, in Germany. Potatoes in general, you know, it's a probably main ingredient in Poland. Now we need potato flour. That goes in, table salt, and then I've got 1 egg yolk. I'm gonna use the spoon to start with. So just make sure you knead it nicely. The more you work it, the kind of wetter it becomes and eventually comes together. Okay, so that's ready. So the duck legs should be ready now. It's about 2 hours of gentle cooking. So you can see completely transformed. We got this very rich dark cabbage. So what we have to do now is remove the duck legs from the cabbage. We don't need skin, so we're gonna remove the skin. The smokiness is quite very gentle. It's not about being a very, you know, smoky dish. It's just that underlying flavor. So now I'm gonna chop that meat. Full of flavor. So this is nicely chopped into a bowl. Now we need our cabbage, which we need to strain. Funny enough, you know, this is a classic Polish dish, cabbage and wild mushrooms. And with addition of meat, you're creating another dish which is called hunter stew, which normally would have a whole selection of different meats. So now this goes into the meat. Don't bin that liquid because it's delicious, full of flavor, and we're gonna use that in our sauce. Now I'm just gonna roughly chop some parsley and add to our cabbage. I quite like a bit of black pepper, freshly ground. So now we need to mix it all in nicely and then leave it to cool and then pop it in the fridge. Okay, so to make our dumplings nice and even, I'm gonna weigh out 50 grams of our dough for each dumpling and roll it into a little bowl. And then we need 30 grams of cabbage. So our cabbage duck mix, make sure it's nice and cold. That means it's nice and set and it's easy to roll into a ball which go inside our potato dough. Now dust hands a little bit of flour. So now we want to flatten our dough and that goes in. You want to, with your hands, roll it and closing. It's kind of like making a bow. I'm pushing the stuffing in while stretching the dough out. Eventually we're trying to close it. Very important to making sure there's no hole, as you know we're gonna blanch it in the water and we don't want the water to penetrate inside. So the next stage is to blanch our dumplings in the boiling water. So that's just the boiling water and we need about 2 minutes. Because the sign the dumplings are ready is when they come to the surface, when they start floating. So we're just gonna remove them now onto a plate. We can put them in just to cool them slightly, or as I said, you can freeze them up to 3 months and they're gonna be delicious whenever you need them. The last thing we need to do is to roast our duck crown. So I've got a pan warming up in the oven. We're just gonna do a gentle seasoning, but not too much, because again the duck was brined. Skin side down. Now that goes into the oven. So while it's cooking, while it's roasting, I like to add some herbs inside the carcass. So I got some rosemary and some thyme, together with some garlic. Already a nice golden color, but we want to do it for longer. So it's not about the speed, it's about the fat rendering from the duck and sort of gently crisp up that skin perfectly. So the duck is roasting, it's now skin side up. While we're waiting for that, we're gonna do a glaze. A very simple basic glaze, soya sauce, equal amounts with honey, a bit of vinegar just to sort of break that sweetness and saltiness. And then I've got some garlic to go in there. I'm just gonna pop it in there with the duck. So the duck is beautiful golden. I was basting it sort of every 5 minutes. Just give it a nice last baste with our glaze. That makes the duck very dry and crispy, and when you eat it, that skin is gonna be delicious. So now we need to rest the duck. It's very important to rest the meat after cooking, because you want the temperatures to equalize. You want the juices to come back into your meat. The last thing you want to have when you carve your meat is all the juice just come out of it. That goes on the side. So in here we've got a lovely mix of flavors, which is obviously all the duck fat, duck juices, some rosemary, some garlic, some soya sauce. So we're gonna warm this up and we're gonna cook our greens in this. So we got this lovely flavors carrying on through the dish. I've got these onions as well. They were cooked flat side down, nice softened, and I've turned them round to create that lovely color. And now I'm just gonna get some sherry vinegar on them. Very, very delicious. So now they're gonna go in the oven just to warm up. So I'm using a Hispi Cabbage, but you can use any winter greens you got available. This I'm just gonna cut in big chunks. It's hot. You can see the start, bit of browning going on. So the greens are ready. You can see beautiful colors. Trust me, they're full of flavor, full of umami, and that roasting flavor. I really like cooking greens like that. Then we got our onions, beautifully golden, and our dumplings, which I warm up in the boiling water just to bring them to a temperature for about 2 minutes. And then this is our jus or sauce with the bones and carcasses we made. So I put them there as well to get that golden color on them. Just gonna drain this onto a cloth, and I like to finish them with a bit of chives. Then our duck breast is duck crown is lovely and rested. I've got some sesame seeds which I'm gonna put on top, which again they give a nice texture, a bit of crunch and a lovely flavor. So we're ready to carve our beautiful duck. Because we don't have a wishbone, that's the advantage of that. You can go nice and straight, nothing is in your way, and then with a knife go around filling that bone, so we don't leave any meat on the carcass. You can see it's beautiful medium. That's how it should be. As I said before, I don't really have control on the oven. Oven fire controls me. I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. beautifully medium. Look at how shiny that is and juicy, crispy brown skin on top. Oh, that's why I love duck. So here we have it, smoked and wood-fired duck with some sauerkraut and potato dumpling and some winter greens.